What's up, everybody? It's Chad again. I'm back with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. This time, I have my doctor with me. Her name is Lori, and I actually don't know what your last name is.
Sanchez.
Sanchez. All right, Lori Sanchez. That's the first time you're hearing it. She's my doctor, right? So anyway, we're here again with another episode, and I brought her in. She's gonna update you guys on the medical cannabis stuff. We're gonna talk about what she does, who Destino Bella is, and that's the name of the business, correct? Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that and everything. And I got a couple more topics to talk about. If you guys are following me on social medias or Facebook or anything like that, you know that this week has been kind of a crazy week, and there's a little bit to talk about, but it really is just catered straight to New Mexico. So before we get started, I want to introduce you officially so you can go ahead and say hello to everybody. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Officially, my whole name is Lorraine Sanchez,
Okay.
and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I am, the founder of our company, Destino Bella, which is just an all-encompassing private practice, really, but our goals are to help with preventative care, things that the regular medical system traditionally doesn't address or talk about, and just bringing things to my community to help my community.
Yeah, nice. And that's great. I mean, I even saw on your social medias that, you took care of skin tags for someone or something like that, or yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to see, because it's like I do cards, skin tags, the whole thing.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it was really hard to talk about like what it is I do and what is our office and what we do. But it's literally, private practice is an easier way to like say it. Is just this is all the things that I like to do. This is everything that interests me, and then I can do it. So I try to do it all in one place.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just kind of keeping with your niche. Medical cannabis is one of those things that you provide for the community. And that's really great to hear. Because some providers are still really scared to do that.
Really scared because of course the laws or regulations, there are just plain out so many updates and changes, and there's so many other diseases, conditions, and things out there that to spend and dedicate the extra time and the education that you need to be able to even to have a visit and talk about cannabis on a research educational level.
Yes.
And then translate it into treatment plans for patients. That's like a whole nother kit and caboodle that if you're dealing with strokes, bigger things, it's just like you don't have the time to add that to your practice.
Yeah.
So I just happen to invest the time and kind of make it happen.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear, and thank you again for joining me. So I guess we'll just start out and tell us a little bit about Destino Bella, where it came from, the idea, like who was involved with you.
So just the idea kind of came right after COVID. It was really just kind of wanting to do things the way I personally thought that the way things should be done, because I truly believe and all the people that work with me, it's like you treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's a very simple old school thing to even talk about and do, but even if you just follow that simple rule, it makes life just, I think, a little easier. And I think that's just kind of how I based all of my services. So like I said earlier, just the private practice aspect of it. One half is just purely medical, on the books, everything insurance. I can do primary care, family practice. So I'm able to see pretty much birth to elderly old age, but I prefer and have the most experience with adolescents to geriatric. But anyway, so that's the medical part, and regular conditions like blood pressure and things like that I take care of. I do a lot of women's health too. So, and I've always been that person that will talk about things that are uncomfortable or things that nobody else will talk about so that it gets talked about.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think, of course, I've thought about this and like what I'm going to talk about a little bit, but it's just kind of like, when you see those fun commercials for like prescription drugs and things like that, and it says, oh, talk to your doctor about blah, 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 may cause, I don't know, your hair to turn purple. It's like when you go to talk to your doctor, that talk never happens. And you ask about that and they're like, oh, that's just a commercial on TV.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And so that relationship part, I think, between your provider, I feel like that's what it should be, is like if your doctor knows you, talks about you, you have a question about something, we should be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, I guess, for the community and just people to like know that, your provider shouldn't be there to judge you. Your provider is there to assess you, see what is going on with you and how to help you, not scold you and tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be kind of a scolding because it's like, hey, get your head out of your butt. What are you doing? Get to work.
This is your health.
Right. This is your health, but it should be, like I said, not a judgment thing. It should be an assessment that, hey, this is what is happening. This is what could happen to your health if you don't take care of it. So let's do this about it.
Yeah.
Because if you do nothing will change.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just kind of what my philosophy now. I feel like healthcare should be, I guess. So that's just kind of what I try to do. I'm also a big proponent of getting everything done in one place and not having to waste so much time. So the other half of what I do on different days is medical aesthetics. And so I can do Botox and fillers and all those funsy kinds of things. I have my medical assistant. One of them helps me with the medical stuff, but during her time, she does permanent makeup, eyebrows, those kinds of things. I have an esthetician in the office too that just does facials, waxing. They can do lashes. They can do all kinds of stuff. So it's like everything that you might possibly need or like wonder about. Yes, we can talk about it, and if it's okay, you can totally go do it right then and there.
Yeah.
And it's just to give somebody, people like myself or like ourselves that work there somewhere to go and be able to get all of those things in one place.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what we've been building from the start. And it is just very small right now. It's just me, an office manager, my MA, the esthetician, and occasionally we have some people visiting too that are either training students, things like that. So there's not a whole lot of us, but we try to get everything done, like I said, the way I think it should be. No,
yeah, it will. Like even when I went into your office, it was very comfortable. It kind of felt like a big fuzzy slipper. Like walking in. It's like kind of comfortable feeling. The big fuzzy slipper is kind of what it felt like. It's like, this is comfortable.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the comfort feeling is. And the waiting room is not too bright. Like usually they're like lit up like a grow room. And
no, it's more like a living room.
Yes, yeah. I like that. I appreciated that. I'm like, oh, light. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that kind of added to the fuzzy slipper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice, inside. And the fact that you do all that other stuff, I had no clue. Obviously I don't get Botox.
Right. And also too, because like I said, I kind of talk about and do things that the majority of people don't talk about. Maybe they don't want other people to know, whether it be about, I don't know, STDs or it's about not wanting to get old. I mean, I'm not going to say anything. No one really knows why you come. They just know you come.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do so many things that it's like you can use your imagination.
Or
you might even be there. You're not even there to see me. You're there to see one of the girls with Nena or Ariel for either your eyebrows or your wax. And I think that kind of extra layer of just, I don't want to say anonymity, but it's just like, oh yeah, I go there for what? Oh, I just see Lori. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you don't say, of course, I'm never going to say either. And like we mentioned before when we were talking, that if I see patients out and about, I'm not going to be like,
yeah.
Because I also don't want, you to be like, oh, how do you know her? Like, no, it's just like, okay, whatever. It's not that I don't like know you or recognize you. I'm just not going to bring up stuff that I saw or did with you in the office in public.
So high professional levels, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's not that I don't want to say hi, but I just want to, you're with your family, and I'm not going to bring up medical stuff in the middle of Walmart.
No, that's great to hear, because your professional standards are a lot higher than most people I've even encountered, and so that's good to hear. Because a lot of people just aren't very professional these days, and so it's great to see and hear. So that's good, and thank you for providing such a vast, just a wide variety of different things for the community. That's really great to hear. It's almost like a one-stop shop. You get your eyes waxed, you get your eyebrows waxed, or you can go ask about lady part stuff, or anything like that. It's great.
And it's always the famous, well, I just had a question, and it's always the end of like the visit or always the end of like the conversation. And so if that's the last thing on your mind and we have a minute, or you can schedule with me because I talked to you briefly about it, come back and let's talk specifics. Even that, just kind of getting your foot in the door, what I mean, gets it taken care of, instead of, I hope this will go away. And then it's like huge. And then it's like, well, we can't really do much now because it's too late. So, So anyway, that's just kind of what I do, and try to keep track of all of it all at the same time.
No, I mean, you're doing a lot. And so, you have different components going on, and, that must be really interesting to kind of, have that organized? You must be very organized.
Actually, no.
Okay. Method to the madness.
Yes.
Okay.
I know where everything is, but no one else can figure it out except maybe the office manager. My office manager, Ani, keeps everything together, and I would not know where I'm going or what I'm doing most days.
Shout out to her.
Yeah. But yeah, we've tried, and kind of part of our services too, and we'll talk more about medicinal cannabis in a second, is we try to kind of separate the days. We do try to work people in between, but we try to dedicate Mondays to talking about just medicinal marijuana Mondays.
Okay.
Right. Just to kind of keep it. And we offer those days. We try to get all the cannabis appointments done that day, so that's like the subject of the day. People want to walk in, we can definitely at least get you signed up, if not worked in kind of for the day. If it has to be a different day, or we see you for a little bit here, you have more questions, we can follow up with telehealth, or you can come back in with more specific questions. But Mondays is when we kind of try to dedicate our time to that's what we're doing.
Nice. Yeah. And, while we're talking about that, so can you share what the requirements are in the process to like recommend cannabis in New Mexico for like, a physician, or, who can recommend cannabis in New Mexico is actually a good question.
Okay, awesome. So in New Mexico, you have to be a licensed provider, which means MD, DO, NP, PA, with prescribing authority is the kicker. If you have prescribing authority and you have a DEA license and you have a controlled substance license, then you're able to certify. That's most providers nowadays carry them, and that's like a personal choice, whether they don't. But pretty much once we're registered with the state and also held accountable for talking to people with things that could lead to addiction and things like that, and we have to do continuing education about it all the time. But anyway, in a nutshell, just all the proper licenses to be able to certify, and then the state puts out, of course, their list of approved conditions, because the Medicinal Cannabis Board up in Albuquerque will sit down, put all the research together, and say these conditions qualify based on this set of research to positively help this patient. And these conditions have been research proven that you can fail traditional therapy. And these are things that people have to live with.
Yeah.
And that's the caveat, is like, we can give you things to help kind of band-aid things, but 20 years from now, the injury you had from being in the military that messed up your neck is going to be something forever that you're going to have. And I don't want to give you an opiate and cause other problems. So anyway, all the cannabis listed conditions have all been looked at, researched, proven, like I said, that cannabis can help when other treatments have failed, or people have tried XYZ and it just hasn't worked. They continue to add to that list. You can petition to add a condition specifically to that list as well. So if there is a condition that you feel like should have its own category, you can definitely write in directly to the New Mexico Cannabis Department to petition for that condition. But for the most part, I think the biggest change lately is they added anxiety. Not PTSD related exactly, but plain out anxiety has been added to the list of conditions. And so as long as you meet the qualifying conditions after that part, a provider with the correct licenses can certify and say, yes, we had a talk today. This is your condition. These are the things you've tried. If you have, let's say, anxiety, I give you some scales to fill out to see where your anxiety is, what's going on. We talk about them and see what's going on, because cannabis doesn't always solve the problem completely. And that's why the program is, have they tried these things, or are these things missing? Because we have to have that conversation of, well, maybe your insomnia won't just be cured by cannabis, like everyone else's. But seriously, especially with insomnia, it's like, if you don't get down to the root of the problem, then it never gets fixed. So that's kind of more of the visit and the talk we'll have, especially with things like anxiety. It's like, well, cannabis can help, bring you down from like a 10 to like a 7, and then you can manage. But sometimes you can also be under the influence 24 hours a day. So the happy middle ground is maybe we can talk about medication to help whatever it is making you so anxious. And people don't I think the stigma is still really there behind mental health and even taking anything for mental health. But if you have high blood pressure, you're going to take medicine, because if you don't, bad things happen. So if you have anxiety, you make your blood pressure high. You make all of these things happen in your body. It's like, why would you not treat that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point in time, like I said, you can try cannabis. It works sometimes, but yeah, you do need something a little stronger to just help you manage, not to zonk you out, not to make you non-functional, just to have, you know, more of an even keel, I guess, with your mental health is kind of what I say, a balance, I guess. So anyway, but yeah, the visit to just certify that is just checking, you know, see how you're doing, where you're at. If you're like a first time ever cannabis user, if you're worried about what it's going to do to you, you're worried about being stupid, you know,
all the above, right?
we talk about it. We talk about the appropriateness of like what form of cannabis and how to ingest it. And that way, what you're looking to get out of it, you can find in a medicinal way. And you can, if you don't want to be stupid, you can avoid it or know in a controlled situation what can happen, and then you're safe with it. And then once people, I think, are over that anxiety also of, I've never tried this, I don't know, this was a drug, you know what I mean? Once they kind of get over that and can see what they can do and control it, I mean, miracles happen and they go off and do all kinds of stuff, like sleep all night.
It's important.
Yeah, it is. And it is really important, sleep especially. So anyway, just depending on one of those conditions, the provider just has to sign off that, yes, you do. Yes, you've done this, or we've at least had that talk about that. For me, when I see patients, especially if they're returning cancer patients, especially, it's like, oh, what kind of cancer did you have? When's the last time you did anything about that? Like, have you had your imaging? Have you had labs? Did oncology tell you it's okay not to go back?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's very thorough.
Yes. Because it's like, I don't know. I mean, just to make sure people continue on, because I mean, it's never flat out said that, like, yeah, you have to go once a year at least to do XYZ for your health. So when they come for their condition, I just make sure whatever that care plan is for that person, like, they're following through with it too. So anywho, but getting a certification, I mean, that's really what it should be. Back a couple years ago, was a big debate about the cash prices for cards, and I mean, they were going for as high as like $200.
That's how much I paid in back in 2013.
The first time, because it was really kind of, I think, just poorly understood what it was supposed to be. And yes, we could certify people, but I think the provider and the visit part of it was kind of lost. But I think now, with the addition of the recreational program, I feel like it kind of did weed out that part of it. And the people who do want to talk about it medicinally, it's like, okay, you don't just want to discount, like, you actually want to talk about it. And, like, you know, I don't want to say do it correctly, but do what's best for you. And when it is under exactly the guise of, I want to try to get you from living in an anxiety state of, I don't know, 9 out of 10 most days, to maybe getting you to 6 out of 10, and then you can function. So it's just, I think now it's understood. Yes, it's a covered medical visit with your insurance. Yes, if you have Medicaid, yes, if you have Medicaid, it is covered. And it's exactly that. It's like, whatever it is that brings you in to see a provider, even if it's to talk about cannabis. When I ask you what else you've done and not done, that's the opportunity to then get started. So based on just my personal philosophy, whatever it is that brings you in that door to start talking about your health, let that be the reason you keep coming back. But if everything else domino falls into place and you take care of yourself, then fantastic. So anyway, I think I went off on a tangent.
No worries. I was going to ask you real quick too. So real quick for the veterans, and we'll talk more about them. Do you guys does TRICARE and TriWest work, or are those kind of a little more tricky?
Those are a little bit trickier because of what they are. I know, depending, even with TRICARE, TriWest, there's TRICARE for Life. There's all the other different variations of TRICARE. But yeah, we do take TRICARE. It's a little bit more difficult for us to, like, work with. So we do have to see, like, your insurance card to make sure, because if we shouldn't be out of network for them, but you know that the VA and things like that takes forever to get back to you. So, I mean, we just have to make sure that it's covered and done. But I mean, A self-pay visit for pretty much any reason we have at the office, I think, is like $60.
Oh, that's
So
not
I
bad.
mean, yeah. But if that's easier to get in, if they want it like as soon as possible. If not, we just have to work with your insurance to make sure.
Nice. That's cool to hear because, I get vets that ask all the time, does Tri West work? And I'm like, I think it does, but,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not a provider.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. And then pretty much for those people too wondering with that, all they got to do is whatever number or website is on their insurance card, just look it up and see. And then usually they have some kind of system where you can just search it.
Nice. So you can actually, the VA does for my veterans, they do have a provider list on the My Healthy Vet website where you can look what kind of provider you want. Do you know what kind of provider you would be categorized under by any chance?
I think I'm under primary care.
Primary care. So look under a primary care.
Or family.
Yeah, family or primary care. One of those categories, they have it on there. And then just search in Las Cruces and she should pop up. Boop. You'll see her name and everything. And, you should be good to go there. And if it is, then TRICARE or Tri-West will take care of it. So yeah, thank you for, sharing that with me. And since we were talking about updates and everything, and we talked about the anxiety, what are some other updates that, you heard you have for, the patients and everything?
So once a month we get together because I am an electronic certifying provider for the state. So which means during a typical visit, if you come now with the changes that have been made, I can do everything fully online. All the cards now are fully electronic now. It's taken a while, but the system is now fully functional.
Because when I went, it was kind of at the beginning.
Yeah.
It
had its bugs. It's been really updated. And then recently, I think in like May, with the changes with the legislature, it got even I guess simplified, and everything relates together. So the same system that we use to certify your card is the same system that the dispensaries use, so that when you make a purchase, it links to it like a credit card. And then when you log into the portal, you can actually see like your receipt.
That's
so
cool.
You no longer have to be asking the people at the dispensary, check my units, or how many units do I have. And units are how many of your allotment, the rolling allotment for every 3 months that goes over. You get 425 units, which is a lot. But some people are concerned with like getting close to using that amount. So you can check it for yourself and not worry. And then when it's ready to renew or due, now you can actually click within that portal and it'll send a request directly to me that you're ready to be recertified, and then we'll just call you from the office to like arrange an appointment.
That's cool. It's a little reminder and everything. And wow. So the state is really rolling the ball with this. And I did give them a call probably a month after I got the card from you. And I told them, is there any way you can add it to Google Pay, Apple Pay? And because they have state IDs already in certain states that you can add on there. And it's just a card. You're not like doing anything like buying cannabis with it. It's just a card that pops up, just like a ticket when you buy something to go to a concert. They're not going to tell you, oh, you can't go see the Doobie Brothers because it says Doobie in it, So they should be able to let you just add a medical card, maybe a medical insurance card. It can fall into the category of something like that because technically, it is medical. And so, I asked the state if they could try to do that. And I even looked online. I'm an IT guy. And it is possible that they could do it. There's nothing against it. So, I mean, it's a possible thing. And I hope they do, because it just makes it easy. You just double click on it and it pop it up, and it's quicker for everybody at the dispensary.
And now that it's fully electronic too, I've been telling people to either take a screenshot of it, that way it comes up easier, save the New Mexico Department of Cannabis homepage to like your home screen, that way you just click, log in, and show it to them. But no, I agree, just to make life easier and more condensed with all the electronic everything that we have.
Yeah, we might as well.
And with that said too, the electronic thing, as wonderful as it is, I know that has been a big kind of barrier for people that are over 60-ish, because it is like new, and it is a lot of steps that we take for granted. We just click, go. But even for that, I mean, when it was going to that, I even joked with the state that I was like, oh, you guys need to pay me extra for health literacy, electronic for the patients, because it's like, it literally sometimes takes longer to make sure the process goes through. It does take a talk out with the visit. But now that it's gotten a lot quickly, just that part and cannabis specifically, but helping people just get set up. They have to have an email, just a working email address, of course their New Mexico ID, and then with those two things, I fill out the application, the attestation that they have the condition they have. We talked about it. Send it electronically. Immediately, you get it in your email after you set up an account with the state. And now for us, our turnaround time is about 48 hours now.
I got mine at 36. So yeah.
Which is huge because back in the day, it used to take, the state statute was 30 days and the state statute is 30 days. So they have 30 days to act on it. So, but now that the process is fully electronic, it's not bombarded with a record depository of medical records anymore.
All the papers.
Now it's a lot quicker to just quickly go through because after I sign it, you sign it. It still sits on the desk at the New Mexico Cannabis Department, and either the director or one of the medical director there or one of their providers will still go through, double check what I put in there, and then say yes or no. It's approved. Automatically, it generates the card. You open your app, and it shows you the little picture of your card, and it's good to go.
Nice. Yeah. That's great, and that's pretty much how mine went too. You know, I ended up downloading it and putting in an element or anything all nerdy.
Yeah.
But I've way they can do it, but that's easy for me. And it's I'm glad that the state did that, and I'm glad that they changed that. And is there anything else that changed recently? Because I know the last time we spoke and you said you were going to go to a new one.
Well, cards are now good for 2 years. There's no more annual renewal. So once I don't have to see you again for another 2 years to renew it. I mean, in between then you can come as often as you want if you need more help. But every 2 years you don't have to check in. And then once I've seen you in person, then we can develop a patient relationship, and then I can even do a telehealth the following year. So It can just be, call me on FaceTime, we'll take care of it, make sure everything's okay, you don't need anything, and I can just submit it all electronically when it's up for renewal. So that's the big thing. And then at our provider meetings, we just kind of bring up things that are kind of going around with the state, or things that come up when we're certifying people during that conversation. And recently we were talking about harm reduction. So that isn't exactly getting people to, basically harm reduction is kind of getting you to step down with something harder maybe that you're doing or more harmful for your health, and getting you to step down using cannabis, which is kind of a controversial thing, but we had a very frank research-based conversation about it, how to help our patients that are recovering from like opioid addiction, things like that. It's very commonplace now that if you were arrested and did some time for an opiate or something like that, going through the probation system, they actually agree with it and will send you to go get your card as part of helping you to get off of the opiates. Same thing with meth, which is a huge, awful problem in our state, and it just continues to get worse. And I'll just say that will break your brain permanently. So just stay away from that. But we talked about the frankness of, it is a rampant problem. It's a very cheap drug too, so it's everywhere, and unfortunately it hits the population that are most vulnerable to get addicted. But to help people kind of harm reduce and either use less or completely come off of it, we even talked about how to help someone to do that using cannabis, to have them use less, possibly get them on that path to where mentally it's like, okay, the addiction part of it, like maybe I can do this. And so we would personally have you having more cannabis and not doing meth anymore. So we have conversations like that, and that's what we talked about the one meeting. And then recently, the most recent meeting, we were talking about driving while intoxicated and cannabis around town, just driving around, because I live here. Like, I see what everyone else sees too. And I tell everybody to please drive and assume everyone is 80 years old and high, because then you'll be on the lookout. But really, I've seen people, blatantly, a bong in their lap at a stoplight. And
I did too.
Come on, you can wait till you get home. So they just kind of went over safety things. They just presented some extra statistics, and surprisingly, there's not as many DUIs as you would think out there related to cannabis, since it went recreational. But to just remind everyone, of course, you wouldn't drink and drive like that, so you shouldn't smoke ingest, eat, drop your tincture, whatever, and drive, because it does impair your judgment to some degree, some people more than others. And then we can get into the whole strain dependent thing. But if you are not able to drive after having 2 drinks of alcohol, same kind of applies to cannabis, if that's going to be like your threshold. So just a reminder that, I mean, it's not actually causing more DUIs and like accidents or anything like that around town, but still be mindful and be safe. Don't drive and use cannabis.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and that's part of the law too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's actually being put on billboards and stuff now. The DOH is actually doing, or CCD, they're doing a really good job about, you know, outreach and everything. I've downloaded some of the posters, and they're really good posters. You know, they're spending good money, you know, having really good information on them. Friends from other states are like, this is actually really good information for anybody. Yes. You know, like, this is really great. You know, like, I was impressed. Yeah. Yeah, you know, that was really great to see. I was going to ask another question. I totally forgot.
But exactly, kind of stemming off that, exactly that. It's the education that people need, and the education, I mean, regarding the cannabis, regarding how to do it, how to be safe with it, because if you don't know anything about it, you don't know anything about it. Yeah. So I think the state has actually done a really good job of rolling it out there, keeping it medicinal, and keeping New Mexicans safe and healthy. Yeah. And I'm not paid or endorsed by the state. Okay, just that.
I like the little caveat.
Yeah, no, but
disclaimer.
That disclaimer. I mean, they don't. I mean, I'm not at all paid by the state to do anything, but I am, I mean, with their system certified so that I can get just the best possible outcome for the people here that I can help.
Definitely. That's awesome. Yeah. And thank you for the update and everything, because, you know, I'm sure the patients, you know, really appreciate that, because, you know, the patient numbers are dropping, it seems like every month. And I predicted probably about 50% back when when this all started, that it'll drop, and it's kind of heading towards that route, you know. What do you kind of feel the numbers are going to be?
It just kind of depends. I really think that it's more the people, the younger people that were using it for maybe PTSD, anxiety, feel like they can go and get it and they don't need to have their medical card. And by all means, you don't need to have it.
Yeah, true.
And that's kind of, I think, the bigger why. But I think if we stay focused on keeping our program medicinal for the state, and just encouraging the population of people that are like, you know, weed is bad back in their day, those people that are really afraid of it but can really benefit from it and keep it medicinal, I think that's the way to make the program continue to stay alive and grow. Because I was really sad that Colorado did away with their medical program, because I think it is really important. But even within the cannabis community, I think if the medicinal programs completely went away everywhere, it's understood amongst the community that it is medicine. Yeah. So anyway, we were talking a little earlier about how if you have your card in New Mexico, you can go to different states.
I was just going to ask you those questions. Yeah. I mean, what are some benefits that you kind of feel of having a medical cannabis card?
So the medical cannabis card, number one, gets you legit with the state. Number two, if you're using it for other reasons and your other doctors or you're not really sure, that just kind of gives you like the seal of approval that, yeah, you need it medicinally. There's the tax savings, right?
Yeah, off the bat.
Yes, off the bat, the tax savings. 100%. Yeah, medicine is not taxed, so at least that 20% is worth something to save on taxes. And then if you do have your medical card, you can take it to other states that have medical programs or have had medical programs that, of course, marijuana is legal in, and they usually honor that in a discount some way with either saving you on the tax in those other states, or giving you some kind of, I don't know, freebie or something. Because
some reciprocity like us.
Yes, or reciprocity, exactly, like us. But even though like Colorado isn't anymore, they still honor it because the cannabis community, I feel like they understand it's medicine. So they'll still honor that. So, I mean, that's always good to know.
I mean, I have one. And sometimes you either get a discount at events or you get in for free. You know, and sometimes on top of it, you can stack. So if you're a veteran or a student or something like that, or even industry, sometimes you can stack those so you get tax-free an additional discount. So your cannabis gets even cheaper. So that's another benefit. And there are some other protections that you get legally that kind of help people. I think there's more for parents than there is employment these days. The employment one's a little weird. It doesn't seem like it's working, but it does seem that, you know, parents are a little more protected. Do you happen to know anything about that portion?
I just know that from the population I've seen, that is absolutely true. A lot of people that maybe are cannabis users and they've always been users, now they'll come and kind of make it like legit, to make sure that we make it legitimize it. And exactly, you're using it for medicine, you're not using it for fun.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps people in battles where it gets nasty with like divorces and when kids are involved, because of course, you shouldn't be under the influence when small children are around, and you have to keep it locked up and safe. But for those reasons, I mean, education is everything. So if you are a cannabis user, you are a parent, maybe you don't know that you're supposed to put your cannabis in a separate part of the fridge because the kids could go and get it. Just having that talk, I think with the certification just kind of helps back the issue that it's like, not fun time, it's medication for them.
Yeah. And I like to, remind parents that, it's 420, do you know where your kids are? And it's kind of just a simple reminder, like, you remember those commercials?
Yes, that's why when you said that, I was like, oh.
And those were old commercials from back in the day. It was more or less like, we were outside for so long, parents forgot we were there. And so it's like, it's 10 o'clock, you know where your kids are? And I'm like, that's kind of late. It's like, dang. So yeah, and I kind of wanted to bring that back, temporarily, or just, whenever I can, to kind of just remind parents, have that conversation with the kids, know where they are, because when I was 14, I was smoking weed. And like that's a fact.
Or know what you have purchased, how much is in it, and where you're hiding it, or keeping it safe, not hiding it, keeping it safe. But that's really, your kids can look as innocent as possible, but you still can't trust them as far as you can throw them. So in that sense, that and any other medication should be, kept out of reach, and if need be, locked away, just to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess we'll go off to the last question that I have for you, really. And what are some benefits for the veterans? Like I know you're talking, some veterans are a little hesitant to get the medical cannabis card. And that's actually what I've experienced, dealing with veterans these past 10 years I've been in the program and trying to get them to get their cards. Is they're very hesitant for several reasons. Oh, the VA is going to take my benefits. I can't have firearms, I can't do this or that. And so there's a lot of misconceptions. What are some advice you can give the veterans to kind of have them at ease, to make them understand that, having a cannabis card really isn't that big of a deal? Because I've had mine for 10 years.
You've had, yes. And it's more getting over the anxiety of it and just the mindset of, you were brought up and this was illegal. So now you're telling me it's okay? No, it's not. I was just in the military and I did exactly everything you told me to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, even just kind of getting out of that mindset is one thing. But for veterans, especially those that have experienced anything in combat, any kind of trauma-related things and PTSD, I can't tell you the wonders that cannabis can do for those folks as far as anxiety, blood pressure, the nightmares, the reliving, the hypervigilance, all of those things you can subtly take care of with cannabis, and not let it cause other problems in your body because of, you've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
I'll just say, and some things in life in general, whether you're a veteran or not, once you've seen it, it's happened to you, it is what it is, and it can't be unseen and it can't be undone.
Yeah.
But you got to live with it. Live with it, but not let it control you. So in that sense, with PTSD, depending on your situation, I know the same population is very, very hesitant to medications, untrustworthy, maybe a little bit of like the VA system, and are they just pulling me through, or do I really need this? But in a nutshell, cannabis for those folks is once you learn how to control it, it might be the one little thing you need to help you get a good night's sleep, or help you when you're feeling on edge because you're triggered and you don't even know what set it off, but you are like on alert, and then you can't sleep because of it. So for veterans especially, I think it's just a good alternative to have before, just to recognize and deal with those things and learn to live with them. I think it's beautiful. And all the research from the VA is the founding everything that PTSD is and where it was studied. And now the fact that the VA wants to recommend medicinal cannabis too is huge.
Yes.
So,
massive.
If a federal agency is now recommending it, the scope of that. I mean, we understand that, but for normal people, it's just like whatever. But on a federal level, to come out and say that, hey, you know, this does work for these conditions and this could help these people. Hopefully it is votes to get cannabis off of the Schedule 1 and at least move to the Schedule 2 so that it can be more researched in the United States. But for now, keep in mind, Google Scholar, when you look at that, you can look at international research about all of these things. If you're not sure, the more education that you have and the better mindset you have coming in to like get over that anxiety about it, the better. But the research, I mean, speaks for itself.
Yeah, I know Israel has a lot of good research
Israel.
going out and everything.
Yes,
They've been
cancer.
on it for years. Yes.
Yes, cancer, PTSD, all of the things that we just can't study here because our laws prohibit it. They've done it in other countries for a really long time.
Germany even. Yeah, Germany's, it's kind of led away with that. I lived in Germany briefly when I got out the military, I did some contracting, and they had to remind us medical cannabis is legal here in Germany, so you can't do it, because I had a top secret clearance at the time, and I was like,
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It kind of gives, veterans just a little bit more calmness, to getting their card. And when it comes to guns, guys, there's really not much we can do with the federal law thing. There's no state law against it. You're really battling the federal law at that point, and federal regulations. Use your better judgment. If, you do want to risk it, I'm just saying it's up to you. There's no one really, if it was really that much of an issue, the DEA and everybody would be kicking down doors at every dispensary around the whole nation right now. They haven't been doing that very often. You have to really mess up. So, they're not looking at you. They're not worried about you. It's your call. I'm not saying yes, do it, or no, do it. It's your call. But at the same time, there's less to worry about these days. With the VA changing their stance when it comes to, prescriptions and stuff like that, the federal government also, and I've spoken on this many times, here at the end of the year, we're going to be having them kind of figure out if we're going to have it on the same scheduling or not. That could be a game changer. So yeah, within a couple of months, we're going to find that out, and I'm excited myself. That's going to be game changer for the industry, for the whole nation.
Yeah. The MORE Act has been shelved more times than I can even see, and things just keep coming up, and now hopefully this will be the year. Yeah,
me too. I'm hoping to. So I really appreciate you talking to me about all these conversations, your business, what you do. Thank you for what you provide for the community. I had no clue, like the wide, vast things that you do. I was like, holy crap, this lady's a Swiss Army knife. So, it's really, really great to see that someone actually really cares. Most doctors, I do kind of feel like, check the box, give me my, kickback, and, get out of my office. But you actually really care. And, that's great to see, especially on the medical cannabis side, because, there's not many doctors who really want to do that.
Yeah. And it's very much, like I said, how you're going to live your life, and not just when you're sick. It's like you have to live with it and deal with it. And I think cannabis is one of the perfect tools to like help you explore and find that for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you don't need nobody. You know what I mean?
I don't need nobody.
Well, you know what I mean. Then you can figure out, okay, I feel this way or that way. You can do something about it, and you go about your life. You don't dwell on that and, let it bring you down or get in the way of you living your life.
Yeah, and possibly end up using other substances or something like that.
Yes.
So before we move on to our last two topics that we really have for the show, because we've been on this for a hot minute. Where are you located at, and how can people find you? Social medias and all that?
We are located in the Telshore Tower Plaza, 755 South Telshore, right where like Tiffany's is, Pure Life, right across the street from the mall. We're in the first building to your right with the teal door. Social media, we are on Instagram. We are IG_Destino Bella. Or my work page is LoriNP_Destino Bella. Those are our two socials. And I think from there, I'm not too good with it, but from there, I think it does connect to the Facebook. As you can tell, I don't really manage all of it at all. But that's how you can find us. There really, social media, I post more of the funsy pictures and other stuff we do. But like I said, we do family practice. And I mean, I'm not going to be posting about like physicals and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we just kind of post about the stuff. But like I said, traditional medicine, things that you need, we can talk about, conversations about your health that maybe you can't have with your provider, because maybe it's something you're, I don't know, too embarrassed to talk about. Like I said, no judgment, only assessments. So we can get you what you need.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, I hope more people go to visit you. You know, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's the fuzzy, comfy slipper. And, you know, it's not like a regular doctor's office. And I appreciate that. So thank you for joining me today. So we're going to move on to the last couple of topics we have, and I'll blaze through these real fast, but they're really important. And if you guys have been following the social media pages, you know that I get information sometimes from people. And one of the things I got was a text. It was actually a message to it. And I'll read it off to you guys. And it reads, filing Justin Fowler individually on behalf of others similarly situated versus Medicine Man Technologies, aka Swazi or Greenleaf, you know, and now I believe it's Everest. We're all under that umbrella with them. We're in a litigation or a lawsuit against, or he's suing these guys over tips because they, I guess, have been taking tips or, you know, something like that from him or employees and everybody else. But to be honest, this has been a common practice within the industry since it kind of started. And it's something that isn't good, and it's not something that should be really practiced, I believe. You know, it's kind of screwed up. You know, sometimes these bud tenders don't really get paid that well. And then, you know, they get a little extra cash on the side. And I mean, inflation's crazy right now. You know, they could use every dollar that they get. And to me, it doesn't really make sense to take your employees' tips like that. I don't know why they would want to do that. But this is actually huge, in my opinion, because this isn't a small company. This is actually one of the biggest cannabis companies in the world. You know, they're in multiple states. I believe they're in Canada too. They own several different companies. So the fact that he's going after them is telling me the fact that this is going to be something that we're not going to see the end of anytime soon. I think this might be something that has the possibility to go up to Supreme Court if they do side, et cetera, whatever. Because that's new. You know, it happens on the restaurant side. You know, I've bartended for years. And you know, you see it happen, and there is a loophole where this is possible. And you know, it is illegal to take your employees' tips unless you go with that little loophole or whatever. But you have to do it right. You know, if you're not the tips that you're essentially stealing from your employees, or you don't do it right, you get screwed. And so for me, it just doesn't really seem worth it to, you know, to do that, because it's really not that much more money, you know, going to your pocket. It's being a little stingy, if in my own opinion.
And I mean, it's up to that individual, right? Like a waiter. I mean, you have to report your tips on your taxes, right?
Exactly. It's on them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's on them. And when I was a tender, it was on me to report my taxes.
Right.
You
like
know.
any other waitress and anything. I mean, it's like you need to do what you need to do to account for your cash.
And so, I mean, I don't know why the business owners want to make more work for themselves by having this other worry of claiming they're pretty much stolen tips, you know, in a little loophole that they found, and essentially getting screwed over by IRS, because IRS, I fear the IRS more than I fear any other letter agency in the or maybe ATF aside of that. But IRS, it's scary. You know, they have a lot of jurisdiction. They have a lot of power. And, you know, they will come down harder on you for taxes than they will for killing somebody. And that's the sad truth of it. You know,
Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Out of her and Snoop Dogg, she's the only one that's actually done time. You know, a little fact for y'all there. So yeah, who's the gangster out of those two? And the Snoop Dogg, I think, openly admits that. But how do you kind of feel, you know, on this whole situation, I guess? I mean, what is your kind of, I know you don't run a retail, but I mean, you're being with the cannabis industry, I mean, you deal with tenders all the time.
I just feel like in the beginning, tipping the bud tenders was kind of your way of showing that, hey, this guy took his extra time, his education that he's obviously invested to tell me these things, and he should get a tip, kind of like a waiter. I mean, I really saw that. And then I feel like once recreational kind of hit, I don't know if they stopped requiring education, but I feel like when you do get a good consultation with the bud tender as far as what they have and what you're looking for, that is above and beyond, and that is service. In my opinion. I mean, it's service. Not to say that people shouldn't have that service for you all the time without having to be tipped, but it is. It's like that's the way the industry grew. And to make this, I mean, this is pretty crazy.
No, it is. And I'm hearing more and more that more places have been taking employees' tips, you know, them make a certain amount, you're get eligible for tips. I don't even know if that's legal. And then some have put it into some other jar and they name it something different, and then using the money for something totally different other than that. And, you know, that might To me, I just wouldn't mess with it. Like,
Mhm.
I get it. You're paying some of these people $15 an hour, but some of them have really great knowledge and they should, get paid a little extra if the person wants to do that. Because I've tipped my tattoo artist, I've tipped, the air conditioning guy,
Mhm.
I've tipped the guy who changed my oil before.
Mhm.
It's not required, but you can,
Yeah.
and these are certain things that you can tip. Now, these aren't tip wage employees. That's a whole different conversation.
Mhm.
And I think that's one reason why they are doing this, because they're like, oh, well, they're making $15 an hour. We're going to do this and blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
you're stealing from your employee. I don't really care if it's legal or not. It's stealing from them. They earned it, went to that jar, and the person, and you're misleading the customer too on top of that. It's very misleading because the customer giving that tip to the bud tender or whoever, they're under the assumption that bud tender is going to keep that tip.
It's for that person.
They're giving it to that person, not the owner of the business. So essentially you're slapping the customer in the face too. So when people see this and find out about this, they might not be very happy with your business,
Mhm.
and it's not the fact that you could do something right legally, but morally that's
Yeah.
almost terribly wrong, in a lot of people's eyes. You guys can have your own
Mhm.
opinions, of course, on that. But most people that I've spoken to, it's kind of stealing from your employees, and it's not right because you're the owner. you
Yeah,
know
they're the ones that need it. But just the accounting for it. But I mean,
Oh, yeah, that's the
that's
pain in the ass
exactly
part.
the same thing of tips with any other industry. But anyway, I've known a couple of bud tenders that have taught me a thing or two,
Mhm.
in my day. So some of them are very educated, lifelong vested into helping people. So I mean, tips I could totally see. They just need to probably make some kind of ruling about it, and then it's fine. But
Yeah,
to take it this far is, I don't know.
yeah, it's almost heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
if it had to come to this, how long has it been going on?
yeah, exactly. Like, has it been going on since the medical cannabis days? Which I'm
Mhm.
starting to hear that it has. Some of these places have been doing this the entire time, and I
Mhm.
think enough people just got fed up, or they just did it to the wrong person, and so now they're filing this suit. And it could just
Mhm.
be the fact that the way that they're going about it,
Mhm.
it was just totally illegal. And a lot of these places might be following suit with that because people have gotten away with it for so long. But
Mhm.
getting away with something and doing something legal are two total different things. you know,
Yes. Yes.
two total different things. Yeah, very thin line, and then that line is like a thread, and it's gonna break
Mhm.
really easy. And so my advice to you guys is just either say no tips, guys, no tips, or just let them keep their tips and just have it on your employee.
Mhm.
It's on them to claim those tips.
Mhm.
Your life's gonna be a little easier. You have less lawyer fees
Mhm.
because this isn't going to be cheap. Two things may happen. It may go on for a while, or Swazi may just settle out of court, just
Mhm.
to save themselves some money,
Yep.
and just say, fine, well, we either let them keep the tips, or we're just going to say no tips,
No
and
tips.
those are kind of the two options.
Or
Um,
or instead of a tip, leave us a 5-star review.
yeah,
Leave me a good review that I'm
yeah,
a great bud tender to bring more business to at least that person gets a recognition.
yeah,
Because I feel like the tipping, I mean, that's what it is. It's like, this person is awesome. How am I going to do that? Well, leave a review or do something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then you get the people, oh, it's not fair because they get more. Well, sometimes they're just more knowledgeable.
Mhm.
Get on that level.
Exactly,
Yeah, get good.
exactly, exactly. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the bud tenders out there who just kind of feel like you're not getting as much, expand your knowledge. That's the best thing you can do. Expand your knowledge, educate yourself. If your employer isn't doing it, you're gonna have to go out of your way and do it. That's what this industry, we've all done.
Mhm.
It's unfortunate if your employer is doing that, but at the same time, it's on you to get good. Like they can give you all the training too, and you can still fail. So that's my advice to the bud tenders.
Yeah. No, good advice. Good
Yeah.
advice.
And if this is you too, and you want to join this, I don't know if you can, but some of you out there, you may want to start thinking about some lawsuits of your own. Like I said, this is a really big company. This isn't just like a mom and pop local
Mhm.
retail establishment or LMPP. But wow, LNPP, I haven't heard that in a long. I don't even know where that came from. I haven't said that in so long. That used to be a licensed nonprofit. That we don't have those anymore. If there are any of the big producers or anything like that, um, it might be time to look at this because this looks like something that's been going on for a long time. Anyway, I'm going to be updating everybody on this as it goes. Obviously, this is going to be a very long story. This is a pretty much a marathon with this story, but I'll be keeping you guys updated on it. I did get some intel essentially on this information, so you guys are kind of hearing this as it's brewing up. I'm still trying to get the document for this. I think it's a federal case because I can't find it on any stateside stuff, and I can't get a hold of it on any stateside stuff from sources. So I'm working on the federal side, and that might take me a little bit. So I'm gonna try to get the document for you guys. Once I get that, we know this is legit. As for now, this was just sent to me, so it's not like essentially confirmed. But from what I'm reading right here, it looks pretty legit. But there'll be more to that soon. Do you have anything before we move on?
No.
Okay. It's like, oh, interesting. So last topic that we have, guys, and we're gonna get out of here, is Sawmill Sweetleaf, not Sawmill Cannabis Company. Don't get those two mistaken. A lot of people were, and I think the owner did get a little afraid that people are going to think it's him. So it's not Sawmill Cannabis Company, the one in Albuquerque that most of us know here in the state. Is Sawmill Sweetleaf Cannabis. They got the hammer, the band hammer from CCD. Not banned yet, but CCD is looking at busting them. Well, they busted them with sending cannabis out of state, and also not having the. Yeah, right. Yeah. And not having the correct manufacturer. See, yeah, I agree with you. A lot of the stuff that's illegal, businesses are happy about it, but it's very unsafe. Like there's moldy cannabis out there that's coming from other states. There's these places that aren't regulated at all. Like the cannabis that they're sending out of state to wasn't tested. And so on top of it, they're sending untested cannabis out of state on top of it. So it's like two no-nos on top of one. And we're starting to see this kind of come to light more.
Yeah.
This isn't something that like is a problem that's getting worse. This is a problem that's been here.
Yeah.
We're just finding out who's doing this.
Who's doing it and how. But I mean, the whole point of it becoming legal, medicinal, and then recreation is so that it can be a clean and reliable product.
Yeah.
So that you can buy from a dispensary and you will get what it says on the box, not wonder what you get off the streets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is very important. I'm glad they're actually coming down and keeping a check on that.
Yeah. And this is, a big story. It came out, I think, about a day or two ago. And if you guys, again, are following any of the socials, I've been talking about both of these last two topics pretty heavily. And, this is big because, we see a lot of this going on. I get contacted from, people who work for other places like, oh my God, this and this is going on and this, but I'm not the CCD. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know what you're telling me. I'm not the CCD. I can't do anything. So if you guys are experiencing this, you are allowed and you can, and it is your right to, and you should contact the CCD. We did like Lori said, we passed these laws and everything. So that way it could be a safer product and away from what it was when it was black market. The idea, and it is kind of working, is to shrink the black market, not to kill it, because you're never going to kill it. It's going to shrink to a point where you don't really notice.
But even the moldy cannabis thing that you brought up too, I remember one of my first questions when I even started learning about this is like, can you be allergic to it? Yes and no. It's more if the product has been moldy or contaminated with mold, and then you roll it up and smoke it, well, you just smoke mold.
Yeah.
And if you're a person that is allergic to mold, like allergy. So definitely check your packaging. It should be sealed. If there's stickers on there, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but if there's stickers on there, peel the stickers and see what's under there so where your product came from.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't seem right, maybe it's not right, and you should say something.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And you guys ask for testing results. If you're kind of weary about it, you are allowed to and should ask for the testing results for cannabis, and they should have those on hand. I had people hand them to me all the time. Normally, when I ask for testing results, it's so I can see the terpene percentages on the package. And so if they bring me the testing results, I can see. But if you're curious, if it didn't pass something or whatever, just ask for the testing results. case about what's happening and everything. The articles I read said they couldn't get a hold of the company for any kind of comments or anything like that. Keep in mind, again, I'll remind you guys one more time, this isn't Sawmill Cannabis Company. This is Sawmill Sweet Leaf. Two different entities, have nothing to do with each other. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, I mean, this is just something that I kind of see as a pattern that's we're going to see more. We're going to see more of these starting to get popped because people got complacent. They got really comfortable. Some of them were blatantly breaking the law, you know, clear as day, not really caring because for some reason they think that the CCD isn't going to do their job at some point. But kind of there, it was just leading to see at the beginning, you know, people were getting set up. The CCD was figuring out their rules and laws too.
Yes.
You know, they were trying to figure out, well, what is legal and not illegal? We can't enforce it if we don't know. And so now it seems like they figured it out. You know, it seems like they have it figured out. And now y'all need to figure it out. You need to get your butts in line, get your shops nice and pretty because, you know, we're saturated. And this is one way that they're going to get those numbers down. So they're going to be looking for anything. You know, and if you need help, contact someone that, you know, that has their shop up and going and maybe, you know, give you some tips of what you can do. It's a community, you know, and if you are a shop that you're up and going, offer your help to someone that, you know, needs it. You know, don't be afraid to offer your help like that. You know, some of these people are doing good stuff. And some people just don't know, you know, but other of them, they just don't care.
And even at that, I mean, I'm sure you can just call the CCD and be like, hey, I'm about to open something. Could you do like a little mock inspection, something like that, where they can do a walkthrough and make sure that you're safe from the get-go, not you get into bad habits and then you didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're a little more lenient if you ask for that help, you know, then the state does want you to succeed. They do want to help. But if you are one of those people who just don't care, looks like they're bringing down the hammer pretty hard. Yeah, and they should. You know, everybody had the opportunity to do this correctly. You had over a year. And now it's time to check on everybody and make sure they're doing it right, you know, and that's fair. And the CCD is doing their job and I applaud them, you know, and it's a hard job because I don't think they have that many agents, you know, like that to do this, you know. I think they're kind of spread out right now.
Yeah, they are. But I guess kudos to the state for the people that they have there. And now that they have all the rules made, like they know what they're talking about now too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there's a few of them, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be more and more as this gets busier.
Yeah, no, I agree. And keep in mind, y'all, that we do in our statute have interstate commerce. However, the caveat to that is federal laws have to change and both governors have to agree to it. So what they are doing could be legal in the future, but it's not legal right now because those two things haven't happened. So keep that in mind. And that could change in the law. There was talks at the last session of changing that to where just when federal, you know, laws change, we didn't have to have two governors agree because, you know, it makes sense to me. Once federal law change, you don't really need to have two governors agree. It's good for everybody. So that makes sense. But as of right now, that's the caveat to it. That's the law. And got the ban hammer essentially, and we're going to see what's going to happen. You guys updated on, you know, all these stories and everything like that. But if you are one of these places, you're not doing it right and you're going to refuse to do it right, either face your consequences or go Bravo 6. You know, and check out. So, you know, or the state to do it for you. You don't want the to do that for you. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have this week. I do have one event that's going to be the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce. They're having a Mary Jane Mingle in Albuquerque, August 16th from 5 to 7 at Por Vida Tattoo. So if you guys are in the area and you want to attend that, go ahead. I'll probably have more events next week. I didn't get a chance this week because I had so much going on and I was preparing for this show, and it was such a great show. And thank you so much for being on here for me. It's such a great conversation. You know, you share so much great knowledge to, you know, the patients, to the people out there, and even just the community. So I appreciate you so much and what you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, that's everything I have for this week. I will see you next week. We'll have another episode here at the Ask Chad Grassy Logic. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, all that good shit. And yeah, you want to get us out of here and say goodbye?
Yeah. Bye.
All right, guys. Shoots.